Hello and welcome to my Jailer Mythic guide. While I will go into a lot of details for tanks and Brewmaster specifically in this guide can also be used for any other perspective, as I will go through just about everything. Just to start off, this is before the recent nerfs, but I don't think the nerfs will change that much about how you play this fight. The very first thing you will notice is I will always pull the boss with Dampen Harm up. Reason for that is he might melee hit you before Shuffle is up, and if Shuffle isn't up and he melee hits you, can pretty much just get one shot, and that prevents that. I don't need Dampen Harm earlier anyway. You also notice I'm not using my CDs at the start here, because this is a bit, this might be different based on the guild, but we decided that it's best if the DK tank takes the first tank combo. In that case, it's better for the monk to delay his CDs. You will also have noticed the tanks here are stacking with Torment. We do that throughout all of phase 1. It just gives more room for the other melee to continue hitting the boss. Well, the first pull chains are coming up. The only important part here is for ranges. You cannot stand behind Azeroth, so like where my mouse is right now, because if you ever get dragged through Azeroth, you instantly die. The same as if you're getting gripped through it, if you Venthyr pour through it, all of that will kill you. So just pull from somewhere else. There should always be a gateway down here, getting you to next to the blood. And all the other blood players up here typically use their personal port, like warlocks or Venthyr ports. And we'll play the blood pretty much immediately. Over here we have one warlock making the connection to Azeroth, as well as a holy priest. Another holy priest is triggering the blood for us. Tanks are about here, as well as the rest of Shaman, but that for later blood only important. All the melees are here. That connects the line. Importantly, that these two people up here, can't see the second person because it's behind my bloodlust, but they can't be too close to each other because it can connect between these two people if they are and just die. For the ranged blood, you have a group of 5. We used a hunter, 2 druids, and 2 mages. In this phase, at least. You have the first tank combo. We have, in this tank combo, we have 5 melee, the tank obviously, and one of the warlocks. It's the warlock that is not doing this job. Like this warlock, it's this Robin. He is not assigned at all to do anything with bloods in this phase. He's also taking the first and third tank combo. For the bombs, you just follow the WeakAuras. Nothing too special about it. You want to jump at about 1.5 seconds. And you don't jump, you just run off. The only important thing to mention is maybe the direction you're getting knocked is based on where your back is facing. So you can predict that, and you want to use that to get where you need to go afterwards. Oh, the first loss is coming. There's a Torment. You should always have predetermined position here for all melee players around the boss so that there's no confusion between pulls. Tanks again stacking. And this also lines up with the first lines from the pillars. First ones shouldn't be an issue ever. They are only really crossing if you're close to the boss. But you can still dodge after the torment hits. There's always plenty of time. The main rule with these lines is move as little as possible, and if you have to move, only move on your line, so either towards it or away from it. There's unfortunately nothing that can track if you have a line on you. There's no debuff. Best you can do. It was a little boss repositioning I did here. It just makes it a bit more easier for other players to have the boss in range and stuff. And just face him towards the outside again. One small thing, this might be different based on your comp, but the DK always over aggroes me at this point, because Neozaur is not generating threat for as Monk, so even though you're doing the same damage, the DK will over aggro you, so I just made a WeakAuras that tells me to taunt back immediately. You also, I forgot that actually, here doing this, DK gets a Bob, so that he can't over aggro during this part. You don't need the Bob until phase 3 anyway. Again, bombs. These bombs can be a bit annoying for the ranged blood people, because you want to play the blood fairly quickly after the bombs. So you might need to use your Venthyr port or something similar if you get a bomb as one of these 5 people up here. It's not the end of the world if you need to delay this blood. As you can see, the timer just ran out, but we're still not playing the blood. We're intentionally doing this a little bit later. Can't do it much later than we did, otherwise it either phone drop for the next one. But if the range people need more time to get to their spot, just play it a bit later and you'll be fine. Here again, it's the same order. Yeah? We have a Holy Priest triggering the bomb at the bottom here. There's the Resto Shaman, he's making the bridge to tanks. It's possible without, but it's just safer to do this way. There's the Warlock at the top again, somewhere another Holy Priest in between. And the same 5 ranged people back. Now for the tank combo, I always move a bit forwards. This is so they get a better angle from getting knocked on the tank combo. You will see they're all gathering. You see the X mark. That's where all the rangers are gathering that are soaking this tank soak. They can get knocked this way. If you don't move forwards, you do the tank combo like here. They get a very bad angle and they will probably fall into the hole. Also using Fortifying Brew here and just Celestial Brew towards the end of it. Take basically no damage with this. And in terms of who's soaking this tank combo, I believe it should be 4 healers actually, the remaining melee and the hunter. Yeah, it's like 6 or 7 people with that. Now again, this is something not all guilds are doing, but we think this was very good. This very precise boss positioning right here. Some guilds may drag him further, like here between these 3 holes, but we keep him here. This is how Echo did it. This is so the next line of sight is a lot easier. People can pre-position during the line of sight for the upcoming blood. If you have him right here, the ranged group can't properly pre-position, and then the timing is much tighter. This is also probably the most scary part for DPS players. You get a bomb, because there's always Torment right after. So this is where you want a personal or healing potion if you get a bomb. Also you might wanna jump just a tiny little bit later than 1.5 seconds. This is so because the torments explode while you're still in the air. If you jump too early, it'll explode right as you land on someone's head, and it's really bad. So you wanna jump maybe at 1 second, but ideally, if you're a class that can teleport back to the ground or something, you use that. Then spread properly. You get this loss. After this loss, it's important that you play the blood really as soon as possible. You see, we still have 1 second on the debuff before. We obviously have to pay attention to that. But now we immediately run in. These people have to make the bridge instantly. We just have me and the Holy Priest go in here, because there's no reason not to. Just so it's triggered ASAP. Still the Warlock here. And the second tank is also here, making the bridge. I also give DK tank Tiger's Lust here all the time, because he needs to reposition the boss very quickly after this blood. See, blood is over now. He starts moving instantly. In fact, I think he goblin jumps to the spot here. Get the tank combo over here. Doesn't always perfectly work like that, but this is how you want it. These lines are very, very scary. The blood decay as well as our DPS decay are always using AMS here. AMS makes it so you can't get MC'd from the lines, even if you get hit by multiple lines. Yeah, our other melee, they try to spread around this area, like here, as soon as the blood soak is done. But like these spots can be scary. These spots for melee can be scary. And this is just important that you just play the blood instantly, because that gives you more time to react with lines, and really follow the rule of how to move with lines. We have predetermined positions. As you can see, the DK here is still moving sideways with the line. This is because he's assigned over there. No one should ever get hit by lines from him at this spot. And anyone else getting lines, you should just, as I said previously, either move towards the line or away from it. We also have bombs coming up right after, so ideally, because maybe if you're not very mobile melee, like a DK, you want to get knocked towards the next holes and not away. Otherwise, you might have issues. This part, in particular for Brewmaster, for me, sometimes was a bit dangerous. Also because at this point, the pillars go up, so less healers will have you in loss. Always use Celestial Brew here. In a lot of pulls, I use Healing Potion here. There's no reason not to use at least one of these two. You never get a melee hit after the Torment hit anymore. That's good to know. You're always safe then. Other than that, this is also a tiny overlap with Torment. As you can see, people fall down with Torment still. So you want to give them a little bit of room. They fall next to you. Now it's just another chain. The second Warlock hit. You want to have the boss move this way. So I move a little bit to the right here. Speed taunt him. Drag him on top of the group and then turn around. So melee can now stand here and attack the boss from behind. This is just blood. This is a very short distance. There's no issue at all getting this. Other than in the ranges, because they, as you can see, they're basically maximum range. For them, it's a lot harder at this point. Generally, for ranges, you don't want person on the next to Azeroth adjusting. Like, the person that's next to Azeroth should always take the same spot. They don't care where other people are standing. They take the same spot because they go as far away from Azeroth as possible where it's still hitting it. And then everyone else can adjust based on that, because that is what matters. You also can't delay this blood too much. These range people will get issues with bombs. So be ready to play this ASAP as well. Now another tank combo. I do the same thing as on the second tank combo. Stand a bit front. Also, one tiny detail for Brewmaster specifically. I've macroed Stomp into all of my abilities, because the pet AI seems to be very bad in this room. And this makes it so Newzao actually uses his Stomp every 5 seconds, instead of just using it twice maybe. It's really bad without. This is another overlap with Torment. They almost explode as people jump down. You can see here, it's the answer that drops here. He still has room here, so you can dodge it. But you sometimes want to make room as you see people fall on top of you. You can dodge them early. And now here you get a lot of lines. Almost everyone in the raid is getting a line. What's important is the edge of the room is very safe in this, because there's not a lot of other lines that can overlap you. You can see this is hell. Yeah, you see the row over here. He's in hell. He's fine here. He's not getting hit because the lines don't have a large hitbox. They only get like, it feels like they get a larger hitbox if you move with them, but if you stand still, they have a really tiny hitbox. But in general, you want to move the boss to the edge. You want to have melee at the edge. We even have ranges at the edge here, because that's just a lot safer. And ranges also, already during this loss and this torment, you want to spread towards the side that you are assigned in phase 2. So if you're playing blood from my PoV, the right side, you want to be spreading on the right side already. Okay, this concludes phase 1. Let's talk about phase 2. So a few things for the MC runes. There's a few generic rules you need to know. Never use any AoE effects if you are affected by a rune. For example, if you drop down a binding shot as a hunter before you are getting MC'd, then this binding shot will affect all other players. And that's bad, then you're just rooting the entire raid. Same with the Spear of Bastion from Warriors. Do not use it if you are getting MC'd. For people not getting MC'd, if you want to use slows on them, use them early. Don't use them towards the end. Don't like piercing howl as they are getting broken out, because they will keep that slow on them. You can dispel them, and you should be dispelling all of those people that are getting MC'd, but not all debuffs are dispellable, of course. Which is also the reason why your rogue should probably not be using a second poison. There is no use for this on this fight. You cannot even slow his attack speed. He's just immune against that. Even the Curse of Weakness doesn't work. So there's no reason to run a second poison, really. It just adds debuffs to MC targets that then need to be dispelled. And not all healers can dispel poison. Now, as I'm dragging the boss, I always place down a Transcendence right there. So I can get back after hitting the pillar. First, the MC rounds are coming out. I always stun these. Your Brewmaster can always do this. If you don't have a Brewmaster, probably need to assign something else, but Spear of Bastion would usually also be enough, but you don't know. Maybe both of your warriors are getting MC'd. You always want to have something else going. I also lay down my Ring of Peace. This Ring of Peace will be up for every single MC runes. There's no reason not to. I always have double roll and Tiger's Lust for each of these blasts. Always Tiger's Lust and one roll to get to them, and then run roll to get back. I dampen harm and Celestial Brew this. Celestial Brew is for every single blast. Always up. Then I roll back here, teleport. And this dot you now have for 17 seconds or something. It's a very nasty dot. And this dot is not getting nerfed either. It's only the melee damage that's getting nerfed. You need to be aware of that. Ready to expel harm or healing potion and stuff. One other important bit during the performance here is you want to leave room under the boss, because they echo now. This is not always possible with the MC runes, because if they have torment, they will also drop their echo, and you can get one shot by that when there's like 3 echoes under the boss then. But always leave room under the boss so that everyone can spread around and then move inwards and keep uptime on the boss. These ranges that are spreading on this side also want to leave room for the tank to move through. Yeah, I will have a lot of room here. They were told to either spread here or spread here so that the tank can freely move through middle. Now this is how bloods look like in phase 2 for us. You'll see you will generally be aiming towards like these 2 holes roughly, just next to the person that you're standing to. You also want to build a straight line to Azeroth. Don't stand like a little bit offset, because that will make it almost impossible to get the line to Azeroth. You also need to be careful. That's for the other side. Do not get the bloods too close to the pillar. We actually had this happen in our kill. It's like, you see these 3 bloods, they are very poorly done. This tank needs to get to the pillar, but he doesn't want to trigger these, of course. Now, luckily for him, the timing works out that he can move in afterwards, but that won't always be the case depending on your exact timing for the blood. Want to make sure see the other bloods that are like going through the pillar or behind it. That's where you want to have them, not in front of them. Now this Decimator knock, you see this line going from the boss to the knock. This line actually does damage too. It will one-shot you. So it doesn't have a huge hitbox, as you can see the hunter standing like next to it. But he's not leaving a lot of margin there. This roll in specifically, do not do this actually. You wanna keep this roll for the next pillar so you can get back and forth. It depends on your conduit proc if you get another roll or not. I didn't in this pull, so it was actually a bad move to do this roll, but it's super minor. Now get the boss to the next position. You want to have him in front of this closed hole so that the next MC runes can get on top of the boss. These MC runes, they go off as you get the blast, so you don't have to stun up anyway, so someone else will have to stun. We had DH ready to stun. If he got an MC rune, one of the shamans would do it. Shamans can always break themselves out of MC runes as well. You just don't stack up with the boss and Tremor Totem. You can only Tremor Totem yourself. I still drop down a Ring of Peace as I run away. Again, not super important because we have Spear of Bastions anyway. But might as well. I roll and Tiger's Last again. Fortifying Brew and Celestial Brew. I usually would have a second roll to get back to the boss, but it's no big deal. One thing here that might be different for you, this Fortifying Brew is only up if you have 2 Holy Priests in your raid that are doing Symbol of Hope. If you only have 1, you don't have Fortifying Brew for this, if you use it at the same time as I did in phase 1. In that case, I would use Zen Meditation here instead, and then Fortifying Brew for the third one. Also, this is pretty important throughout the entire phase as a Brewmaster. You want to make sure that your 4-piece is staying up. If you, as you can see, I Keg Smash right as I leave. See, I could have done it a global earlier, but I didn't. I delayed it until the blast starts. Keg Smash now, refresh my 10 stacks, run away, and by the time I'm back, I can refresh it. Because you could lose a lot of HP if you don't do that. Also, I hold my Weapons of Order for the next MC runes here. Because the next use will be in phase 3 with the ads anyway. You wouldn't get another use in. Or unless you use it on pull, because you're doing a different tank order, like the monk is doing the first tank combo, then you could use it on CD, I think. For Blood Decay on this one, he's using AMS. This makes it so he still gets the debuff from Shattering Blast, as you can see here, but he's not taking any ticking damage from it. If you have AMS up during its application, you're not taking any ticking damage. You can do that for 2 of the 4 blasts each tank is getting, so the DK is doing it for the 2nd and 4th blast. Again, dragging the boss quite a bit here. Rangers need to make sure they actually give room. Early on, we had a lot of people spreading here and couldn't properly pull the boss. This is about where you want him. Again, leaving room under him, move in. Here you swap the tank order. And this again might depend on your tank composition. You don't have a Brewmaster, it could be different. We need to get rid of this pillar next because of the blood that's being played over there. But the next pillar is very far away, so you don't want the DK doing the very far away one. This is why the DK is taking the first one now, and I'm taking the second. Again, I positioned my Transcendence here. It was quite a bit earlier, right here actually. Positioning my Transcendence around here. You don't want it too close to Azeroth, otherwise you're gonna hit some bloods later on, too far away, and you wouldn't have it in range. So this is about what I have it. This is now the wombo combo MC runes that you're getting, because you have Torment during the MC runes. So these 4 people that are now MC'd, they all get Torment. Means there's a dead zone around them. If anyone goes next to them while Torment expires or during the echo, they just get 4 hits from them. I move in and stun them, and then I move out again. Alright. I always have this spot. This needs to be free for the tank. He can move back. Now you're getting this Decimator. This is a bit of a weird one. This is because the Torment people are here, because Decimator always goes towards ranged people. So most of the time it will probably spawn like over here or down here. But in this case it spawned on Azeroth. And you're getting knocked as the echo goes off. So I'm a tank, so I don't really care if I get hit by an echo. But for other players, it's really important that you don't get hit by an echo, because you will probably die if you do. So you need to either, like these melee, for example, here, they're standing, so if they get knocked from here towards here, there's no echo on the end location. But they're also negating the knock. For example, warriors are blade storming. DKs can... that's advance. All that stuff. Wanna have it up for you. Now here again, you need to be quite fast, so watch out for the timer. Instantly Tiger's Dash plus roll. Celestial Brew first, then Zenmed. As I said, you might do Fortifying Brew here instead if you didn't have it up for the second one. Roll back, Transcendence back, and instantly Keg Smash to refresh my stacks. It was very close for me. I did not do it perfectly. This Keg Smash was a global too early. This one right here. I should have Blackout kicked first and then Keg Smash. That gives you more time. If you lose the 4-piece here, that's really bad, because this is a very dangerous part. Oh, Bloods again. Bloods might sometimes be a bit later if you're slow on breaking the MCs. For example, here we have 4 people that are playing Bloods that got the MC. So you want to break them really, really fast. You might need to delay it 1 or 2 seconds if they are not in their spot yet. We actually did it very late in our kill. We do it like 3 seconds earlier. Because usually when I teleport back here, when I'm here, there's usually blood flying right here already. We haven't even started. Now this is probably the most dangerous part in phase 2, because boss raises pillars, you get 6 stacks, which is the maximum in this phase, and he's also doing World Cracker, which also does raid damage. We assigned personals here, like whoever has a personal uses it here. I'm also getting paints up, because I still have the dot on me, and that is like the highest damage income in this phase as a tank. You need to drag the boss very far here as well. There's no Tiger's Lust for the DK because I always need it myself. But we have a roar running, and he wrath walks towards the pillar. This is where he AMSs again, so he doesn't get the dot. Yeah, this is difficult movement, but you really need to drag the boss as far as possible here. If you don't, you will get screwed on the next Bloods. Because the boss can't really be dragged anymore now. You can move him a little bit, but he's like doing cast after cast after cast, and now in like 2 seconds we want to be playing Bloods, and we had like 3 wipes or something, because if you're standing over here as a ranged, like this is where you stand as a ranged, you will get the line from the Blood players, and you bring it right into melee, and everyone is spawning the dodge things. That's an instant wipe. So also important that all ranges move with the boss here, so that they don't do that. I also drag the boss a little bit here, which is not always possible. Sometimes he just stops and doesn't want to move. Again, Dampen Harm is up here again with Celestial Brew. At this point, you're still often in danger as a tank. I still only have 3 seconds left on Dampen Harm, but much longer on the debuff. They should be healing potioning or health stoning or even both here. As you can see, I'm actually dropping to 1 HP and just don't die because Dagger can't kill you. But the Dot obviously can, so I should have potioned it. But I also have the she Death Trinket from Fate Scribe, so that just barely didn't proc. Yeah, you should be using something here, and healers generally should look out for both tanks here. Because after the Torment hits, there's really no raid damage going out anymore. These MC runes, they're quite bad for us because we had to delay the blood so much. Remember when we delayed the blood, when I went to the far pillar, we had to delay the blood a lot, which means this blood is also delayed. And then these MC runes are having a hard time getting to their spot. This is a very specific spot. We want them right in front of this hole, because this hole is opening. We can't let them get on the hole. If they're on the hole while it opens, they just all fall down. So I have a Ring of Peace to prevent that. There's this Spear of Bastion as well. This Moonkin didn't make it, so he had to be gripped. He had to be gripped twice, I think. There should also be an Abolymp running at this point. It also always gives him back. I keep the boss for a little bit here until they're broken out, and then you move him over. 40% is about the average what we have at this point. 41% still works. You would still have the same push timing as we do. With the nerfs, you might even push him earlier than we did. Now again, Transcendence right there on the edge of the hole. Position the boss a bit further. Want to have him in the middle of these 3 holes. All ranges need to stack here to bait the Decimator. It's very important. Immediately once it spawns, you all move over here. Only rangers move over here, I mean. Melee are meant to stay here, attack the boss. Only reason I'm moving over here is because I need to move the boss a little bit. For melee, you want to stand at the top of this circle. Once the circle in front of you despawns, you actually want to move towards it. Because sometimes this circle can, like the big circle, hoarding debris, can impact before the Decimator does, and then you're not getting knocked out. So you want to move out of it before the knock hits. Yeah, ranges just get hit to the side. I Tiger's Lust myself, run around here, taunt. Don't move too far here. You see the boss almost moved this way. You don't want that, you want him to move this way. He casts Chains, I roll once, continue running, wait until Barrier is down. Everyone needs to be in this, really every single player. Transcendence to break them all at the same time, roll back in. As soon as the chains are broken, rangers will start moving out to build the gap to Azeroth. You can see the bridge we're building towards Azeroth a bit better. We have our 2 Moonkins next to Azeroth. Mage, 2 Warlocks. The Hunter is triggering the blood. The Hunter is also not standing in the Desolation. He's just moving there a little bit early. You can soak the Desolation and then do the blood if you have like dead people, because you need 17 people in the Desolation to not lose any health on Azeroth. So if you have dead people, have this person stand in the Desolation first and then move towards the blood. It makes the timing a little bit worse, but you need to do it. And then these 2 Moonkins are also not standing in the Desolation. That makes those 3 people that are not inside. As soon as the 3rd stack is applied, everyone move back to the boss. It's a lot easier to dodge these projectiles if your camera is facing towards Azeroth, like in this example, compared to how I'm doing it. I mean, it's not that important. If I'm getting hit as a tank, it's not a big deal. I can still use my abilities. It's not that much damage, but you should be facing your camera towards Azeroth. Now you just bait the defile in front of the boss, everyone gateway. This gateway is pretty much in the middle of this torment position, so you can stand here. It's very tight though, to actually not take any damage from this. I don't know if I would risk this as a non-tank. Because you see some people are just standing here, and that's fine. Because this will be the ranged spot. This is where you want to be as a ranged. Once you drop your Torment, this is where you need to go. Boss position also important, that he's sufficiently moved alongside and doesn't like stop over here or something. Tank wants to move him through the ads. And now this blood, we don't actually bring this to Azeroth. We just play it in melee, because with how early you can push the boss with the damage you have, you don't need to bring everything into Azeroth. And for our progress, we thought this was the hardest to play, because it's a very tight timing to bring the line into Azeroth, then dodge the projectiles and bait the knockback. And at the same time still play the ads. That for us was the hardest part of the fight, so we decided this is the blood we don't want to play. We just have me triggering the blood, melee just stand like in the middle of the ads, rangers stand here to bait the knockback. One important note here is that if you have previously missed 2 ticks for the Azeroth health in phase 1 or phase 2, you need to bring this blood into Azeroth, else you will be running out of energy before you can play the next blood. If you only missed 1 tick, you can still skip this. It's just gonna be very tight, but it's doable. So if you miss 2 ticks, play this blood. If you miss 0 run, don't play it. Also, you want to have your beams and stuns assigned. We had these 2 ads get beamed, because those are the furthest away from everyone. These 3 would always get hit by the meta stun from Demon Hunter. And now, if anything still needs stuns, I can back up stun after soaking the blood. You can also single interrupt them at this point. Rangers want to move towards the edge once the knock is baited. Depends though, like in our case, this knock spawns here. It can also spawn over here. If it spawns here, you just stand like in the middle boss basically and get knocked towards the edge. The main point is, after the knockback, you want to be on the edge of the room. Now you just wait on the edge until Defile is cast. For Defile, I didn't mention this earlier, but you can move as soon as the cast starts. You do not need to wait until the cast is succeeded. This is especially important for the gateway earlier. Melee can continue hitting the boss. Now, first chain, actually the second chains, the first you don't really play them, but this is like the first proper chains are coming out. They should be on the DK in this case. We have 2 warriors, Demon Hunter and myself, taking them. They just need to be the closest target towards him. Everyone else needs to make sure to not be close to him. We have our both tanks marked as well to make it easier. We just keep them on those people for a while now. The important bit is I have to taunt the boss instantly. If the DK is getting a single melee hit while having the chains, it's basically instant wipe, because the damage he takes will be replicated to the 3 other DPS players. They will all die, all 3 chains break immediately, and it's probably a wipe. Now these heal absorb soaks, they're not super important actually. You can mess them up quite a lot and still make it. The only important bit is only stand in one of them, have at least like 3 or 4 people per, and that's about it really. We have like a triangle here. This is a tank soak, like both our tanks. In this case, I think some rangers are standing in it, but in theory it's enough if the 2 tanks are doing this one. This is our melee one, this is our ranged one. It's just for better movement, because that's where the rangers are coming from and they want to stay here for the next blood. As soon as the runes are over, you move the boss to next blood. Rangers are still at the old blood, we are at this blood. One of the tanks, doesn't really matter which one, is triggering this blood, the other stands in the boss, and the rest of the melee is standing behind the boss. And then there's 3 rangers taking the bridge to Azeroth, which is in our case Holy Priest, and I think there's a mage. Yeah, that's a mage over there, and that's a Moonkin. We also grip both our closest players to Azeroth here, because double projectiles are coming up, and those are not easy to dodge, so you want to grip them instantly over here, so they are a bit further away, and they're already at the bait spot for the next knockback. Most dangerous position at this point is probably this Holy Priest here. It's like the third position, we don't have a grip left for him. So he's dodging the projectiles over here, which is very close to the boss. You probably want to have Nightfire up for this or something. He could have probably ran this way. I think that would have been better. A bit more space, and then continue running this way while dodging. Now this is the same from range perspective. They're playing their blood over here. There's a lot of ranged. Yeah, it's very easy to build this bridge. We had this hard assigned this order, of course, but yeah, it's really easy to do this with like how many? 8 people, I think. They're getting gripped. Actually, I think the mage is getting back on his own with alter time. Yeah, you want to dodge these projectiles over here and bait the next knock. Then again, you want to get knocked towards the edge of the room here. Again, the line can't stand it and stuff. Now, as the projectiles go away, our first warrior instantly leaps out and breaks his chain. Then the second warrior leaps out. It's important that they don't leap out at the same time, because whenever you break a chain, everyone else that still has a chain is getting gripped towards the tank. That is the main target, which is the DK in this case. See, I'm getting slightly gripped, and they break it. This is also important for the DK. The DK might be immune in his knockback with Death Advance, but he still needs to be in a good position for those people that are getting gripped. I mean, I could drop a Transcendence as well, and the Demon Hunter could just press spacebar, but it's still a good practice to have the DK be in a good spot for the knockback, so that people getting gripped to him don't fall down either. During this blood is also where you would usually want to use a cooldown. I use Fortifying Brew here. You get that extra damage, and you're getting a lot of melee hits back to back, so it has a lot of value here. You don't generally, phase 3 is a lot more safe for tanks, but might as well use it. Small thing here also, we are using Blessing of Protection on our Blood DK. This makes it so he doesn't take any physical damage at all, which would be replicated to the other targets that have chains. That's mainly from the Decimator hit or the dot afterwards. Now the remaining 2 chains, you just let them run out. They will break automatically. Rangers, as I said earlier, they just get knocked towards the edge, stay there, bait the Defile, start moving, get in front of the boss. This isolation is coming up, very easy isolation, nothing happening at all. Again, you need 17 people, but you just have everyone stand in it. DK at this point will be running ahead of the boss once the isolation cast is succeeded. I give him Tiger's Lust as well. We have Windrush Totem for everyone else. He's taunting the boss because he wants the next chains. These chains, sometimes they just don't happen. I don't know if anyone in the world knows how to do it consistently. Yeah, sometimes they just don't happen. But if they do, just be ready for it. Same people as the last chains, soak it. Again, instantly taunt the boss so that the DK is not getting any melee hits. Very important. These chains also need to be broken instantaneously. We have one of our warriors run out ASAP, and then the second one will be running out during the projectiles. This is just the best time to do it, and you're done with them before the absorb hits you. Now during this Decimator, we also would want to use Pain Suppression on our Blood DK. We did not do it on this pull. Usually we did. He also uses Iceborne Fortitude to just reduce the physical damage as much as possible, because remember, still it's getting replicated to everyone else who has the chain. It's only me and the H at this point. Sometimes it can still be a third chain if the timing is tight. And those people, they also have the heal absorb. So if they take any damage from the chain, that can be very dangerous. If they die, their chain breaks, and you have still multiple chains up that can result in a chain reaction, swipes you. So you wanna use cooldowns on your tank here. And he has Icebound, Fortitude, and Rune Tap, so he's barely taking any damage. Could use Pains Up as well if you wanted to. Now for this blood, the positioning for the line is important to be on this side of the hole, because we want to bait the next knock towards this side and not where you're coming from. So you want to build a line on that side already. A lot of people doing a line here, 2 Moonkins, Holy Disc Priests, Shamans, Resto Shamans, in melee. Also in this case, we only brought in 1 energy to Azeroth, 1 tick of this blood. The remaining 2 we kept for later to refresh the buff. Reason for that is if you bring in more energy than we did, then you will get this last torment. If you do it like we did, the boss will run out of Azeroth energy before he can do it, so he'll run towards the middle and don't do the torment. Now, of course, this might change based on how many ticks you missed earlier in the fight. It doesn't matter when in the fight you missed 2 ticks, but you wanna miss 2 ticks on top of the blood that we didn't play at all in phase 3. So one day before I started recording this, there were more nerfs announced to this boss. This is alongside some damage income nerfs to Torment, phase 1, and tank damage. There's also 5% health nerf and a buff to the stat buff you get in phase 3. So we will have more damage than we have. With our damage, the boss would have pushed about now. With this timing, we might have had to stop DPS for a few seconds. With our DPS, my thinking is you would want to push before these group soaks. This blood, you don't bring it into Azeroth anymore. You just all have everyone stacks in melee. You push the boss right before the group soaks happen. You get your 3 stacks from this blood. Just not bring it into Azeroth, just take it for the damage buff. And then probably break 2 chains during this wait, like right here, like we are doing it now. Break these 2 chains, this dodge wouldn't happen. And now the boss would have been pushed by now. Easily, you see, is like 3.8% left. He has 5% health less, and you do more damage. At least for our comp, it would have been simple to make that check. If you don't have that damage, extra damage, just play this extra bit that we did. Very important that you have your ranges in this rune. This is swapped from before. We now have ranges here, melee here, still tanks over here. So because you want the knockback to be baited on this side of the rune this time. Because you're still getting the defile. It's also possible that you push the boss before the defile. You might want to push the boss right now. It's also fine. But if you do push the boss early, you probably want to get 3 stacks from the damage buff earlier. Because the Azeroth pool despawns as soon as the boss starts casting his shield. In our case, the defile wasn't perfectly baited. Would have been better to have a little bit further away, because you want to drag the boss towards the edge here, so that he has a maximum range towards Azeroth. We should have either stopped DPS for a second or baited the defile better, but it's not a big deal. We refresh our damage buff here right before he phases. Was very close actually. All of us have 3 stacks, we all do 9% more damage. Regarding this healing bug, no clue. Really, I don't think anyone really knows why it happens. One theory that was floating around was also that the current active tank has to be not in melee range, which I try to do here. The idea is that the pathing of the boss gets confused and he stops the cast. Really no clue. Just important, have the healing reduction debuff on the boss, either through a Arms Warrior or through a Hunter Pet. So your 2 options. Now, as you can see in our case, the defile was getting very close, because it's still growing. So we just told people to get off the boss at this point to not risk it. Now the 2 remaining chains still just expire. It's just important that you had the 2 previous ones broken. So that's only 2 expiring and not 3. 2 is not deadly. First death sentence is on a random target. Not a big deal. They just need to get a bit more healing. These first bombs, it is essentially just like P1. You have your 3 holes over here. This is the front hole, this is the right hole. Down here, which you can't see in my UI right now. Over there, this one is back right. And the other 3, they are just shifted 1 over. These 2 are closed. So this is the left hole. This down here would be back center. This one under my raid frames right here is back left. But also in this phase, it's really not a big deal if 2 bombs jump into the same hole. So if you're panicking, you're not getting to your hole, just jump into the same one as someone else. You shouldn't be dying to it. Pop a personal, maybe make sure you're topped. It's really not that bad. Now this first meteor cleave. This is the more dangerous meteor cleave of the phase. You have 6 people getting the bombs, they can't be in it. And you have the death sentence target, which is the DH in this pull. You also don't want that person to be soaking the meteor cleave, because they are also getting the death sentence damage, and if they die, it's really just game over probably. So you have 13 people left soaking the meteor cleave. You should all be popping a personal. Bear form is druid and stuff. If you have a raid colon already back up at this point, like maybe we could have shouted here. I think we had it assigned for later, but maybe it's better to use it here, because this really hits hard. As you can see, people almost die to this. And like this paladin, for example, is with a personal up. We have the DK taking the first one here. I just poured back, taunt the boss immediately. Bait the knockback back here. This is where you are coming from, the meteor cleave anyway. Just important that the bomb targets are also on that side of the room. Now we move the boss quite a bit. This is for the next bomb positions and dispel. Our DH is standing right where we have marked it. These 2 zones spawn. This is for both tanks. Should be fairly obvious who takes which one. Now these bombs are just P1 bombs. This is this triangle right here, this one. We had one person take a wrong one, I think. Our DH. You can see him here. He's going somewhere else. Not a big deal either, really. It doesn't matter. You take a different hole here. He ended up dying. I don't know, I think he got stuck on the way back up or something, then fell back down. I don't know exactly what happened. But yeah, not a big deal if you take a wrong hole here again. Torments though, very important torments. What is important also with the bombs is that your knockback direction. Because there's all this torment coming up right after, and you want to bait the torment like way far away. Yeah, just a few examples of bad torments on this pull. This warlock right here, blue, is a bad torment. We don't ever want someone dropping it here, because this is the direction we're moving to, and this is not where we want to bait the next knockback that's coming in 2 seconds. You want to leave a bit of room for people to run through, then they can drop it very far back. For example, you have a mage all the way down here, you even have a warrior over here who will be able to leap back. Like, the only person that should ever have this boss in melee range at this point is the active tank and maybe the second tank. Everyone else needs to go away. Other examples of a bad torment, for example, is this one. This is pretty bad. You will see why this torment is bad, because this knockback now, we are all in a very bad spot right now. If we get knocked here and we drop into the defile, that's game over. You'll see a few people right here. I think this is the mage blinking away. Here's a druid wild charging away. The DK is death advanced, so he doesn't get hit into the defile. That can be a very scary spot. This is why that defile is not good. And some ranges were also not in an ideal position here, because you don't want to be ahead of the boss at this point. There's still the knockback bait coming. Best spot to be in right now as a range is probably right down here. Is if you get a knockback on you, it can't spawn right on top of you because that's too close to the boss, so it will spawn like over here off the screen. These are bad spots. This is a particular bad spot right here. If the knockback spawns there, that's really bad. Not only are you getting knocked towards a bad direction, but also the falling debris spawns in a bad spot. This right here is that okay, not ideal, but okay. This is where it ends up spawning as well. Now we move the boss further. We have 2 marks here where we're doing this spell. Both tanks go on 1 mark. I give the other tank Tiger's Lust here as well, so he can get to his position safely. We intentionally do the dispels a bit further apart, so it's more obvious which one is for tanks and which other 2 are for the warlocks. We also did this dispel a tiny bit late. The timer is pretty accurate here. We have, so dispel should be right now. We're doing it about a second late. It makes just timing for the upcoming torment easier if you do the dispel on time. Yeah, DK is getting the one on the boss. I get this one. It's a bit far away. So I need to roll back because this torment, again, as the first one, you don't want any torment ahead of the boss. This time we're dropping them a lot better. There's still like there's a pretty big wall right here of torments, so it's hard to get through for people in the back. But also remember, you can actually run through a torment. So for example, this person that dropped it right here, this person here, can actually, after they drop it, run through this and wait here. For example, you can run through the torment of someone else after dropping yours, still don't get hit by the echo. There's quite a bit of time. Now we turn the boss. Meteor Cleave is coming up. This should be soaked, in the best case, by 18 people. Everyone but the 2 warlocks. Well, in this case, 2 warlocks. It might be other classes for you. These are the 2 most tanky classes, other than the tanks, that should be getting the death sentence. Everyone else should be in this. There's a possibility that you're still stuck with the defile. For example, our hunter's not in range. He's not soaking this Meteor Cleave. He's still somewhere over there. He will eventually night fail over the defiles, and that's fine. Also, you need to be ready to call for a grip, for example, if you are stuck behind defile. And in the very worst case, if you are stuck over there and defile is growing around you, you can't go anywhere. You don't have night fail up, nothing. You literally just jump off the platform and don't hit a defile. That's sometimes the best thing you can do. Shouldn't happen, but it's a worst case scenario thing. Now, in terms of defensive cooldowns as a Brewmaster, this is probably the best spot to use a Dampen Harm. Your debuff is starting to tick hard. You're getting a lot of melee hits back to back. There's a lot of value for this. You don't need it for the Meteor Cleave that's coming up because that's split damage. That's nothing for you. And after the Meteor Cleave, DK is tanking again. So that's where you would use it. And yeah. Also, this Meteor Cleave, you have a lot of closed holes here with the positioning we did. There's really no risk to falling down whatsoever. And as a range, you should actually use this Meteor Cleave to get close to the next holes. We had a few ranged right here, getting bombs while close to the boss. This is a mage and a warlock. Now the warlock didn't soak the Meteor Cleave, but the mage realistically should already be further up here. Warlock could have pre-moved over here. This is just because there's a very, very long distance to walk towards these next holes. Really use the Meteor Cleave to get there. For example, we have 2 people jumping into the same hole here because there's just no way they're making back left, and that's totally fine. Now, if you get the heal bug, the boss is dead at this point. You might not, with the nerfs, you might not even have to play the bombs anymore. But if you don't get the heal bug, this is how it continues. The 4 death sentence debuffs, they stack under the boss. You're not single dispelling them anymore at this point, you're master spelling it so that they're synced. You get them at the same time. We did this very, very late in our pull. Based on the timer, you should be doing it around now. And now means now the master spell should already be cast, not starting to cast it. We did it like almost 3 seconds late. And you will see why this is bad. Right now, the knockback is already spawning. We're still standing in our soak zones. This is getting really close now. Yeah, the hunter right here has to move out of it. He just barely makes it. This is why it's bad to have the dispel late. Also for these master spells, you just want both your tanks still soaking, ideally both warlocks, but it doesn't really matter who is soaking at this point. You just need to make sure that every single one is soaked. And if you have 2 people standing inside of it, that's fine. Both of them will get the debuff. It's not the end of the world. The boss is about to die anyway. Just make sure every single puddle is soaked. Now this is also not ideal boss positioning that we did. Ideally, you want to move the boss further. So already at this point, don't stop here. Move further. And then wanna bait the knock over here. You wanna bait the knock the same direction that we actually ended up doing. But ideally, it's even further over here because the boss is already further. It will just give you more room for the torments. This also means you don't want ranges soaking the death sentence in this part of the room, but you want ranges on this part of the room and melee in this part of the room. It's not the end of the world if it happens like this. It's just you really don't have a lot of room for torment now anymore, as you can see. We didn't play this very clean anymore. It's the first time we got there, because the boss just dies if you get there. But ideally, some people can actually move back after the falling debris is over and get more room. There's a lot of room still over here that you can use, because really the boss is dead after this point. It doesn't really matter where you drop the torment. It's just don't splash each other, which we ended up doing. Our holy priest died actually here, because he splashed with tank. His zones drop here. I think people would have soaked it, but the boss died just before. And you shouldn't ever get to this point, but if the boss is somehow still alive, this meteor cleave is essentially your enrage timer. You will not survive this meteor cleave, I'm pretty sure. Theoretically, maybe could survive this meteor cleave, but realistically, you're not gonna do it. Also, maybe one minor thing on meteor cleave: you can't solo it as a tank. If you do, your entire raid will just die. There is a minimum amount of people required in it. I don't exactly know how many. It doesn't say anywhere in the tooltip. I just know Echo tested it, and they tested soloing in it, and the entire raid just died. So don't try that. And yeah, that's about it. It's probably becoming a very long video, but I wanted to go into as much detail as I could, and hopefully cleared up anything that's not obvious from watching kill videos. If you have any questions left, feel free to ask. And good luck on your progress.